Welcome to the 40 Chess Podcast. I'm your host, Patrick Hobble, and today on the show, I'll convince you that we never won our independence. It wasn't our framers' fault. It was everything that happened after. I got the evidence, I got the receipts, and it all ties together in a big old ball with the Epstein files, Biden's doctor, and cloud seeding. All today on 40 Chess. Let's play politics today. That's right. Welcome back to the show. We are live streaming on X. Thanks for joining. We are live streaming on YouTube and Rumble. Thanks for joining as well. Apple and Spotify, as always, we are there for you. Sorry if you can't see us today. We got a lot of little clips. We'll play them. I'll convince you that we did not win our independence. It is marketed that way because the British elites are still doing it. They're still doing it. My girls at Promethean Action, they have totally convinced me. We'll play a little bit of those clips, and I will just show it to you that the central hub for all things global finance, London, is still pulling the strings here in America. But guess who's causing them absolutely fits? It is Donald Trump. We saw it during the cabinet meeting yesterday, or I saw it, and I'm going to point out my takes on this. Hope everybody's having a good week. Oh, excuse me. It's interesting to think about. What happens after this show is as you watch politics, you'll start to see that things don't mean so much anymore. Clips from Jasmine Crockett, Ted Lieu, random congressman. It doesn't mean anything. There's so many bigger things at play. All that little stuff, you just got to let it go. But did we really win? Did we really win this so-called independence in 1776? I don't think it was. I think it was smoke and mirrors. That's not to take away anything from the military. It's not to take away from our founders, of our history. All of it's still there, right? You could either call it propagandized history. That's fine. We're living in it. That's fine. I love our principles. I love America. Hence, we're doing the podcast and the flags everywhere. I mean, come on. I'm an American. My kids are American. This is what I want. But I don't think we won our independence. It's not what I'm saying. I'm saying the British just changed their tactics. It has been a war that's been ongoing since the beginning of time. It goes way back before America, right? Picture this. Fireworks, declarations, and a bunch of colonists cheering like they just kicked the British's ass, right? Kicked them to the curb. But here's the real question. What if the Redcoats never truly left? What if they just were able to control us in other ways? What if they just packed up their troops, they sailed home, and then they flipped the script? It's not that hard to imagine, right? If you rewind the clock 48 hours, I'm sitting here talking about cloud seeding, and 90% of people are like, they don't cloud seed, they don't cloud seed, they don't modify. If you go back a year, I'm like, they modify the weather. Just look at the evidence. Everyone's like, they don't modify the weather. No, they modify the weather. That's what they do, right? And I'm sitting here telling you, I am pretty sure they went back and they said, oh, just give them the land and we'll control them in another way. That way we don't have to go over there and control them. We'll just control them with the money, right? They let us play house with our votes and our flags while they grabbed the reins with the money. No joke. The evidence piles up further than you can possibly ever imagine on this. They don't teach it to you in schools, so you've probably never heard of this stuff. But I'm telling you, it is a rigged economy. We all know it's a rigged economy. Mostly, they controlled it from the financial realm. They didn't really use force, even politics. They let us write our own laws and all the things. We're talking about the shadow empire. The same shadow empire I was talking about yesterday on yesterday's show. They profit from war and debt. It's always about the money. Hence the money trees, right? Hence the money trees. It's always about the money. This is not history. It's the big fight for real freedom, okay? And this is where the enemies and the enemy is in London. They spread out everywhere. They control different things. They're not just based in London. They have different places everywhere, but like their financial hub is in London. And the neocons crave the war. They crave the debt for their opponents, and they give them debt with war. Okay? Let's go ahead and unpack it step by step. I think it kicks off in 1776, where we cut ties, of course, right? But the British didn't vanish. They doubled down on finance. Early on, British investors, they poured cash into American ventures, right? They controlled key banks for trade. That's why they did it, right? For instance, after the Revolution, the British still dominated U.S. trade routes and credit lines, with merchants in London calling shots for colonial debts, right? Historians note by the 1790s, Britain, they flooded the U.S. bonds and infrastructure market. They essentially bankrolled the United States growth, which is exactly why I'm doing this show, because guess whose agenda is all about growth? And it's going to be an American agenda. Yes, that's right. Donald Trump up there. Donald Trump at the top. His agenda is about growth. Their agenda is about keeping us from growing and growing them. You can't have both. And it always goes back to the that's right. So you can't have both. They can't make money and you can't make money. Now you can make alliances. Like we could team up with Russia and we can make money. But then the central hub in London would not be able to make money. It's as simple as that. You can call them the Brits, the Redcoats, 1776. It's always about the money. We know this. Okay? And the British investment poured into federal debt, and they created something called the Bank of United States. They bought stock in this, right? Foreigners, mostly British, held up to 70% of that stock. I want you to think about that for a second. Who controls companies? Well, the people that own the stocks. And you go back to the first bank of the United States, 70% of the people that controlled it were Brits. That's post 1776. That's after America's already formed. Are you understanding? I don't think we ever broke free. I just think it shifted. So by the mid-19th century, firms like the Baring brothers, right? They were huge in the libertarian movement. Another British thing, right? And their assets were abroad by 1913 with heavy U.S. infrastructure plays in railway, which revolutionized our economy, but kept us hooked on their loans. That's the trick. You'll always notice that we are tied to the Rothschild banking system, the Bank of England. We're always tied to it, always. I can always find it. Why? Because real power is not muskets post 1776. It's money. They let us have the land. They let us vote, but they own the purse strings. That's why Congress could be the most powerful branch. Congress could be the most powerful branch if they ever got their shit together. They don't have their shit together. In fact, they are all bought and paid for so that other people can control the purse strings. Right? They don't want people messing with the purse strings. They don't want people messing with the purse strings. They want to control the purse strings. I think my live streaming just went on YouTube. I apologize. Maybe it'll refresh in a minute, but I'm going to keep going. I'm going to keep going because we are on Spotify and Apple. And if you don't get the live stream, then you'll just get the recording. Looks like we're still live on X and Rumble, though. So there you go. What was I talking about? Oh, and get this. By the mid-1800s, the British banks, like the Baring brothers, who financed massive U.S. projects from railroad to cotton, they turned America into their economic playground without even firing a shot. That is not freedom. That is financial slavedom, right? Financial colonialism, as they call it. And it all goes back to London. It all goes back to London. Let's see if we get this back there. Docs. YouTube. Select the stream. There we go. It looks like we're going. Oh, it's not really going on YouTube. We apologize on YouTube Live. We've lost our viewers, and I don't know how to get back because I don't have a producer. But let's go ahead and dive deeper. The American Revolution wasn't just about tea and stamps. It was a straight up war against King George III and his Currency Act. Once again, you're going to see the ties to money. 1764, they banned colonies from printing their own money, and this forced them to borrow from, guess who? The Bank of England at interest. And it drained the wealth, and it definitely sparks resentment when you have to pay people. Benjamin Franklin fought this harder than anybody, I think, calling it the prime cause of the revolution, and it left us in perpetual debt. And after winning, we tried to own our own currency, but bankers like the Rothschilds pushed back. Napoleon nailed it the best when he said governments dependent on bankers lose control. And in 1791, Hamilton, backed by the Rothschild interest again, set up the first bank of the United States, which nearly wrecked our economy in 1811. What do you think happened soon after we almost wrecked the economy? They went for the kill shot, and they gave us the War of 1812. Congress killed its charter, but Nathan Rothschild threatened war if we did not follow in suit, and we said, fuck you, gave them 2 middle fingers, and they started the War of 1812. Do you see how this works? When you don't fall in line, when you don't fall in town, well, it looks like we're back on YouTube. Sorry about you guys. Welcome back. We are a low budget show. You can donate on Patreon. You could go to give us a follow on X as well. Now that I have everybody's attention, give us a follow on X. There we go. We are 40_wizard. Just type in 40 chess. We break down all the politics, and we're going to get to the current events in a second, but I'm going to tie it all together to the banks because this is what's going on. It's not about freaking Alex Padilla getting arrested. It's not even about immigrants. You know, that's a small part of it. They want cheap labor. The rich elites want cheap labor, but it's not even about that. I could show you clips of Ted Lieu talk. It's not about that. You have to zoom out and look at the global chessboard in order to understand what's going on in the news. Do you really think it's about the Epstein files? No. I'm going to say it yesterday. I'm going to say it again. Awful what happened to the victims, but that is a small piece of the pie. If you zoom out and look at the whole pie, it's even more disturbing. We didn't even win the war, the American Revolution. We're not even free. It's more disturbing than underage girls getting trafficked and raped. And I know that's a bold statement. It's just a small part of the picture. Believe me, I want justice for all those. I have 2 kids. I would never wish that upon anybody. We only get one life, and if somebody exploits it for power and political gain, then there should be justice. But you just can't do that right now. It's not the time. Set it aside. Epstein, I was just watching the PBD podcast. Adam, love you guys' show. Set it aside, brother. Set it aside. It is not the thing to do right now. There is so much going on the global chessboard that requires our attention first. Think about it. I'm going to use floods. If the flood was coming in your home and the water was rising at fucking 45 feet in an hour, what are you grabbing first? You're not grabbing, your TV. The Epstein files is the equivalent of the TV. It is the equivalent of the TV. You are grabbing things you don't need. You grab water. You grab flashlights. You grab life vests. You grab things that you need. And right now, we need to focus on the battle with the economy, with the elites of London, with the deep state. This is what you have to fight first because you're running out of time. And their tactic is to delay. Right? So after we ignored Nathan Rothschild and gave him 2 middle fingers, they started the War of 1812. Right? It's financed by the Bank of England. It was designed to recolonize us or bury us in debt, one of the two. Right? But we won. This is the beauty of America. We're sort of like, you're never going to get us. Our spirit is strong. But then we chartered something called the Second Bank in 1816 and handed control right back to the private bankers. It's like we're stupid or something. Right? This cycle of private banks creating debt traps, starting war, and toppling governments. It's designed to keep the nations hooked, under control, under slaves, and so on. It is the playbook that turned independence into repossession. That's exactly what happens today. I'm going to say this again. That is the playbook that turned independence into repossession. We were just the poster child. Now they use that formula everywhere you go. Look, they overthrew The president in Ukraine, they installed Zelensky, and now they just toppled a country down with debt and war. This is why Russia has sanctions from the EU, because Russia actually stood up to them. But what happens when you stand up to them? They paint you as the bad guy. So Putin is evil, Trump is evil, right? When you stand up to this system, right? Going back to the PBD podcast, everybody set the Epstein stuff aside. It's still going to be there. It's been there since the 70s. Focus. Focus on the big picture. We are battling a system that is hoping Trump just goes away because they can't control it. And they know we're a threat. I got clips here in a minute. Bannon said the same thing yesterday. Bannon's more focused on like the local deep state, but this is the problem. Once you break the local deep state, you have to deal with the global deep state. And a lot of it's like the same thing, but there's so much, man. How does it get like this? I don't know. But if you zoom into the 19th century, the American system was exploding. This is a problem for the global, like British imperialist system, right? Think tariffs to protect our industries, national credit for infrastructure, and building our own factories, right? Instead of just shipping raw goods to Britain. Leaders like Henry Clay championed this. It sparked growth from canals to railroads. But the British Empire, what did? They waged a permanent war to stomp it out. Evidence? They forced free trade on others to crush rising economies, such as the Opium Wars in 1839 and in 1956, again, where Britain bombarded ports to flood markets with opium and cheap goods, destroying local industries and indebting them. Does this sound like fentanyl to you? But it could be. I have no proof on that, but it sure does look like the same recipe to me. And in Latin America, British interventions in the 1820s and 1840s used what was called gunboat diplomacy at the time to enforce loans and control resources. What did this do? This prevented independence. It prevented independent growth. You cannot have independent growth. So I have evidence throughout history of the British imperialist empire stopping independent growth using different tactics. Flood you with drugs, flood you with this, flood you with this, flood you with that. Gunboat diplomacy even. Right? Closer to home, Britain funded Southern secessionists before the Civil War to split us up and keep cotton cheap. Right? Staying neutral but selling arms to the Confederacy while blocking what was called the Monroe Doctrine in efforts to stop European meddling. This is all history they teach you. They just don't tie it together. They give you everything you need to know to figure this shit out. What was their goal? Their goal was to prevent the American system from spreading. That's the goal. You can't spread. You cannot have a system that overgrows your system. Think of it like grass in the yard, right? In their view, America is a weed and we are spreading. The British love to garden anyway, so this is probably good for them, right? They love to garden. And America's just this weed that's growing out of control. Okay? On our side, they're the weed keeping us from growing, right? And so it's just perspective, but still, it's the same idea because sovereign nations building wealth threatens their debt and war machine. And it's like a global chess game where Britain's moves were all about flanking the rising power. They have to sabotage anybody who's growing. Now to current events. If you fast forward to today, July 10th. Is it the 10th? Yes. Trump is flipping the board. Right? In the cabinet meeting yesterday, Marco Rubio laid this out right here.
Well, it's just going through a list here, Mr. President, and I think the Vice President's pointed out to the great team you have, and all these achievements that have happened domestically. But you think about it, under your leadership, we prevented and ended a war between India and Pakistan. NATO's now at 5% for the first time ever, the highest numbers ever. A peace deal between the Democratic Republic of Congo and Rwanda. A 12-day war that ended with an American operation that we're the only country in the world that could have done. Hopefully, pretty soon, a peace deal between Azerbaijan and Armenia. The entire Middle East and the infrastructure of it has the potential now to change because of Syria and Lebanon, and it hasn't even been 6 months. Sure. It hasn't even been 6 months, so it's a great testament to your leadership in this.
That's great. So he laid out that Trump brokered peace between India and Pakistan. He ended a potential nuclear flashpoint. He sealed a deal between Congo and Rwanda after decades of bloodshed. He halted a 12-day Israel-Iran war, right? And he's crafting the frameworks for Azerbaijan and Armenia peace talks, while also expanding the Abraham Accords, which locks down the Middle East completely off limits anymore from the British elite empire. Okay, so that's like 8 things that if you are the British elite imperialist system, you're pissed. You can't have that. That he just closed off the market, right? Trump has done more in a week than most people do in your lifetime with this system. You have to remember, I said we never got free in 1776. They have been controlling this shit for hundreds of years, guys. And Trump is straight up dismantling it. God, I hope the people on the PBD podcast or anybody who watches politics can watch this episode. Stop fighting over the stupid shit. It has nothing to do with anything. Literally nothing. Nothing. The gay pride stuff, the immigration stuff, none of it. Nothing in Congress. Biden's doctor technically counts, and I can prove it to you in a second, which is where we're going, right? The Epstein files, yeah, that's part of it. But it's not what we should be focused on. You have to protect the country first. And the only way this is ever going to happen is if we break free from what Promethean Action calls the British imperialist system versus the American system, right? Their current gem, right? Their current gem, like is in diamond, their gold bar, right? Is testing weapons and racking up debt. That is what they do. They want to test the weapons, rack the debt up, get you into war, and move on. Who is the head of the snake? The head of the snake, without question, is an organization called the International Banking Cabal. That's what I'm going to call it. It is the centralized banks. They are the enemy. They are always the enemy. They will always be the enemy. And until we get our own currency and we draw a fence around us and there is no ties to the Bank of England or London or Wall Street, get rid of it all. All of it's got to go. Every president who has ever introduced their own currency into the United States has been shot and killed. This is the pattern that blew it open for me. Go look up every assassination and then type in currency that they introduced. Lincoln did the greenbacks, right? Then he was shot. They're going to blame it on but the history says something else. No, just trust me on this. If a president comes up with his own currency, boom, you're going to die, right? JFK did the same thing. He had an executive order going out where he was going to issue some currency and try to get away from this and this, right? Dead. Dead for many reasons, but dead, right? The International Banking Cabal, it is centralized where? Oh, shocker. London, right? It loves conflict because you get loans in this conflict, and Trump nails it. He says, in this cabinet meeting right there, he says, our enemies, our so-called enemies. This is very important. And I got this from Susan Kokinda or Barbara Boyd on Promethean Action. They pointed this point out. It's a great point. Our so-called enemies are watching. What does that mean? Well, she said it was perceived, and I totally agree with this, because Trump sees the potential of partnerships for Russia and China. This is a problem because the British imperialist system uses all these small little countries in Europe and whatnot, and they have their hooks in us. But if we were to team up with, say, I don't know, somebody extremely powerful like Russia and China, right? This is crazy because this was the play from the Secretary of Agriculture. I forget her name. I'm sorry. But this is what she said yesterday.
Today, we are taking this purpose and our American farmland back. American agriculture is not just about feeding our families, but about protecting our nation and standing up to foreign adversaries who are buying our farmland, stealing our research, and creating dangerous vulnerabilities in the very systems that sustain us. reshoring and nearshoring our food and agriculture. In coordination with the White House, the Departments of Treasury, Defense, Homeland Security, and Justice, as well as state governors, state agriculture commissioners, local, tribal, and territorial governments. Today, we announced the USDA's National Farm Security Action Plan. This plan includes 7 key action items, and there's a lot of people here that I want you to hear from, so I'm not going to go one by one, but just very quickly. It's on our website. The press has gotten a preview of it, and we can ask some questions once we finish the main program. But very quickly, and perhaps the most important, the first of the 7 is securing and protecting American farmland ownership. Actively engaging at every level of government to take swift legislative and executive action to ban the purchase of American farmland by Chinese nationals and other foreign adversaries.
Boom, that's all you need to know. By Chinese adversaries and other foreign adversaries. Chinese adversaries and other foreign whatever, right? Explain though. Explain this. You can see this picture right here. That is what Chinese CCP party has bought. Now, you might be saying, is their goal to destroy America? I'm going to argue their goal is not to destroy America. Their goal is for control, right? And profit. That's everybody's control. They don't want to kill anybody. They're not going to send nukes over. They want to grow more food. And, they might want to play dirty. And then they'll sabotage the current food supply, not in a poison you way, but in a way that De Beers controls or used to control the diamond market. They want to grab all the diamonds, right? They want to grab all the diamonds, and then they want to say that they're scarce and then sell them back to you. And if they can do that with food, now that's sort of dangerous to let somebody else control that, but that's how they're going to profit, right? And they would love to control the world's largest economy, right? With some of the world's biggest populations, and they would love to be able to control the food market there. I don't think they want to kill us. I just don't think that kind of evil is out there. Nobody can profit from that. You have to understand that the evil doesn't stem from killing. That's why there's few serial killers. The evil stems from profiting, right? Or gaining power. That's the thing, right? So the Epstein list, they wanted money and power, so they just raped little girls and boys for profit, basically, right? That's the problem. That's where the evil comes from. It's not that they wanted to ruin people. They are just driven. They're driven by power and greed. These are the problems, right? And I think the Chinese Communist Party is driven by control, power, and greed. And so they want it. Now, that's totally fine because we're sort of driven by that too. We want the oil. We want to expand. We want to buy Greenland. We want to control all the things. The Panama Canal, that's fine. We could be that way too. Everybody's like that. But this is what that's what his agricultural secretary said yesterday. But he also said in the secretary meeting or in the cabinet meeting, he said, we're getting along great with China and we have a really good relationship lately. Yeah, do you see? We're going to keep them from buying stuff, but we're getting along great. Because he wants to build the power relationship of China, Russia, and the U.S. to take down the biggest enemy of them all. Focus. Adam on the PBD podcast. Focus. It is not about the Epstein list. It isn't. What's the other side doing? The other side is totally scrambling. Oh, well, here's Josh Hawley talking about the same thing, right? And so you got the big game getting played, right? The big game is played, the British versus the Americans still, but then internally we have local politics like this.
We believe in the people's rights, and what we don't believe is China coming in, buying up our farmland. You know, one of the reasons that young farmers, my state, farming is our #1 industry, ag, #1 industry. We got a lot of young farmers who can't buy land. Why can't they buy land? Because Chinese corporations and other shell companies are coming in, buying up all of the land, putting...
Companies. What's the #1 goal of a company? I'll give you one guess. Right? #1 goal of a company. It's not to kill people. Zoom out and think about it. They just want to control. They want to grab all the resources and then control the market. Sort of like what the British elite imperialist system has done with currency. right? But doesn't
Big
Holly...
solar panels on it, using it to stage their various attempts at espionage. This is ridiculous. We ought to ban it. No ownership of farmland by Chinese corporations. Steve, I don't want...
when you zoom out and you think of what we're talking about on this show, and then you see Holly talk about that stuff, like Missouri, doesn't that make you just like, okay, that doesn't matter? Because it doesn't. It doesn't. You've got to let a lot of this political stuff go. It's not even in the news. Or it's in the news, but it shouldn't be, because we should be focused on other stuff. There's so many other things going on. Right? Take a look at this. This is, it's just Macron and King Charles. What? What's the other side doing? Macron met with King Charles recently. This was July 8th. Right? And Macron was quoted by saying, where's it at? Did I not have the clip? Oh, I got it right here. We need to reduce the dependency upon the U.S. Britain and France need to reduce the dependency on the U.S. Do you understand what's going on here? They've got to try to get away. They are dependent on us for things, just like we are dependent on China for things. There's a lot of play going on back and forth. And these two, definitely not on our team. Definitely not. Oh, it's the Royals. Oh, it's Macron. It's France. Nobody cares. No, they're definitely not on our team. These are two of the most powerful nations still pushing the British imperialist system. When did Britain conquer France? And I mean, like, they had the same thing where they got away, they broke away and had their independence. That France was our ally for the longest time. And I think that's one of the myths that goes on, that France is an ally of ours. France is not an ally. This is the EU Rothschild banking system versus the we got to get away American system. Right? Speaking of controversy, the French surgeon who just vowed, little conspiratorial here, who just vowed to expose Brigitte Macron, that's Emmanuel Macron's husband. Candace Owens did a great piece. I mean, he's transgender all day long. The surgeon who said he was going to reveal the secrets just died from falling out of a window in Paris. His death comes after French President Emmanuel Macron told people to stop speculating about his wife's gender. Can we just have a little moment of like, what the hell? Candace Owens was right. She was spot on. Anyway, let's keep going. Historically, these British monarchs, they dip into diplomacy, like King Charles, dips into diplomacy when the empire's interests are threatened. It's not about land anymore. It used to be, let's send it out and let's conquer this area. Now it's just conquering financially. Well, his empire is threatened. So you've got to meet with France and we've got to talk about Donald Trump because he's a thorn in our side and he's going to keep us from making our money. And we've got to keep talking about it because those are my interests. Right? Queen Victoria shaped alliances in the 19th century using royal marriages.
The question is whether or not Rainmaker, cloud seeding on July 2nd.
Rainmaker. Thank you. That's right, Will Kane. We got Will Kane that just wanted to start talking. I know cloud seeding is important, Will Kane, but we've got to wait just a minute because we're still talking about the bigger picture. See, we can't be focused on cloud seeding, even though it is interesting to focus on. It is interesting, but we've got to focus because Queen Victoria, back in the day, in the 1700s, right? King William III personally handled foreign policy in the 1700s using Dutch diplomats to protect trade empires. And Queen Victoria shaped alliances in the 19th century through royal marriages and state visits to counter European rivals. And Queen Elizabeth II, the great Queen Elizabeth II, who I absolutely adored, by the way, everything about her was the way any royal should ever be. She visited 117 countries, hosted leaders to boost soft power equivalent to USAID and the CIA of our home country, right? Like her 2011 Ireland trip, healing old wounds. That was her point of that, was to make more money. We've got to keep the interest high. And King George, in 1939, visited U.S. World War II alliances. And this is King Charles. And what's his doing? His pre-king trips pushed climate agendas, right? That's their financial interest. And now he amped it up with the Brexit. And now with the U.S. shifting its policy and Trump, they are trying to flank Trump. They are trying to team up and protect their own interest. It's crazy how people get so distracted on this stuff, right? There's the Epstein list drama, and MAG is furious at this. It's going to, on our local domestic political level, it's going to split our party up. It already sort of is. You can see this on Twitter very clearly, but these are the weak minds. The weak minds are going to split over silly little issues instead of zooming out and looking at the big issue, right? And MAG is furious at this DOJ memo. And people are just flipping out over the Epstein list. I urge you to go back and watch my show yesterday about the Epstein list. Yes, your government traffics children for profit. Okay, put that aside. Can we be free first and then we can deal with the troublemakers? And in a lot of ways, it's the same thing because it stems from MI6. I can't find the clip. I don't know where the clip is. But the sorry, I was reading something. But the clip of it was some random dude saying that he thinks that the that MI6 most likely has the Epstein file. MI6 and Mossad and like some other intelligence agencies that all sort of team up over there. He thinks that they have it. There was other stories I heard yesterday about the Mossad trying to put an auditory listening device in the White House copy machine. Our CIA was cold torturing people. Like, guys, there is so much stuff that you just don't want to know. Right? But they're using tactics. It's all tactics. The Epstein list, the libertarian attacks on the big, beautiful bill, the weather stuff, the NOAA, all of that, right? It's all designed for free market chaos, right? They want chaos. Musk launched a third party, for God's sakes, slamming the bill. And their ultimate weapon, the one that I can't stand because I look at the big picture, just like you should look at the big picture, is Jerome Powell and the Federal Reserve. He is deliberately sabotaging Trump's economic agenda by leaving high interest rate. And he's doing that. His personal battle with Trump and his team of the British imperialist elites is costing you money. You can't get a lower mortgage rate. You can't get a lower car loan. You can't get these things because Jerome Powell and the British imperialist system are just trying to piss on Trump's agenda. And Trump's screaming at him to lower it down because he can't try to explain this to everybody because it sounds crazy when you do it. And despite all of that, Trump's economy is humming. It is humming like a 454 Chevy truck engine, right? Inflation, lowest it's ever been in the last 20 years. As of yesterday, new factories are popping up. Energy production. Look at this. Energy production. It is all about energy production. I'm just going to show you this one. I'm just going to type in department. Let's go Department of Energy. Look at this. We found where's it? I saw it the other day. It was like we just dug up millions of pounds of some new mineral that's going to drop gas prices and everything else. It's crazy. I think it was this one, this article right here. Right there. On first rare earth mine in 70 years, and it produced millions of tons of rare earth or something. I don't even know what the mineral is, but it's booming. Everything's booming. Everything is booming right now, despite Jerome Powell and the centralized banks and the stock market. They're trying to crash everything. They're trying to crash everything. There's even a trades apprentice program. This is what they hate. Trump is going to turn America back into the powerhouse that it was. He's going to have executive orders coming next week that are going to gut climate change even further. Once again, King Charles, his first pre-king trip was to solidify some climate change shit. Do you see how this is just the antithesis? It is the thing we should all be talking about. We're not free. Why does nobody say it? The same reason nobody likes to say that the Epstein list trafficked little girls and boys for political power. It's uncomfortable. You don't want to say it. Can I go a little bit conspiratorial right now? Look at this one. Is it possible? Is it possible? Look at the floods everywhere. The entire country is flooding. Georgia, Texas, Tennessee, Arkansas, Mississippi, Kentucky, Missouri, Indiana, Louisiana, New Mexico, and Arizona have had floods that have just washed houses away. Is this part of their tactics? I know they're manipulating the weather, but are they manipulating all the weather? Like everywhere? Is nothing natural anymore? I don't know. Right? The Texas Hill Country is drowning. Trump's cuts to NOAA and NWS are getting blamed. That just seems like the perfect tactic to distract from the story that I'm trying to tell you about. They want to push climate change. That's my thing. Whose agenda is it serving? It is serving the climate agenda. It allows them to sell their scam. It's perfect. There's 11 states underwater. Oh, it's climate change. You better sign this deal. They're going to try to make it as the Cloward Piven strategy. They're going to break it, and then they're going to pass the laws that they want. God dang. If that's the case, I know it's a little stretch. I don't have any proof that they're causing 11 floods. But you know that they do it. Look.
The question is whether or not Rainmaker, cloud seeding on July 2nd, contributed to storms that occurred on July 4th. Did it enhance? Did it intensify what we saw some 36 to 48 hours later?
Unequivocally, our cloud seeding operations on July.
Who is this guy? This is like eastbound and down guy. It doesn't even matter. It doesn't even matter. I don't care what he says. He's PR specialist and he's smooth talking and he's going to tell you that it doesn't. And I'm going to tell you that it does, so you can believe what you want. But I'm telling you right now, they fucking modify the weather. Are they modifying it across the country to give Trump something else to handle, to try to distract him? Possibly. In fact, it's more likely so that they can push the climate scam. The probability is high that all of this is happening so that the Americans can get on to this.
Afraid of climate change. Are Americans afraid of climate change? And the answer is Americans aren't afraid of climate change. Climate activists.
Whose financial interest does that hurt the most? When 350 million people just say, what a fucking dumb idea. The British imperialist system, who wants climate change and wants to push a carbon tax and wants to keep you from driving and use your social credit score once you start driving. This is all about climate change.
Have not successfully made the case to the American people. I want you to take a look here. Greatly worried about climate change. We have data going all the way back since 1989. Look at that. It was 35%. 2000, 40%. 2020, 46%. And 2025, 40%, which is the exact.
They were going so good, too. They were going so good. And then common sense set in. People wake up. Maybe this is the American spirit. Maybe we just freaking wake up.
Same percentage as back in 2000. Despite all of these horrible weather events, the percentage of Americans who are greatly worried about climate change has stayed pretty gosh darn consistent, which kind of boggles the mind a little bit. Granted, everything that we see on our television screens, our computer screens, the hurricanes, tornadoes.
Doesn't boggle the mind. You just need to critically think a little bit. There's 5 ice ages well before humans. We are currently in an ice age now. I can prove it to you. What happens if I put ice in my hand? It melts slowly. What happens if you put ice on Earth? It melts slowly. And we had so much CO2 from the previous ice age, the solidified global ice ball Earth, that it's still melting. We're at the end of an ice age. This is the beginning of ice. You think ice age is like a day long? Ice ages last millions of years. There's ice on the poles. And guess what? It's melting because we're at the end of one. And if you rewind the clock a million years, there's more ice. Dumb as hell, man. And there's been 5 of those. It freezes because some cataclysmic volcanic activity happens where it like blocks out the sun and then it gets super cold. And then all of that clears out and then it starts to melt again. God damn, do not blame my frickin' truck. Because it doesn't matter. But that's the question. We're not believing it. So you have people like this fool out there telling you that, oh, cloud seeding doesn't really affect da-da-da-da-da. No, it does. It 100% does. Because that dude he's getting paid by Palantir. Palantir is Peter Thiel's company. And I'm super skeptical of that because now he's in on the AI and just gave $1 billion contracts to the U.S. government and all this stuff. Just blows my freaking mind, man. Anyway, I want to show you this picture here. Do you see this picture right here?
Cabinet, I gave it up. I said I have to give it up because that's one of the...
Forget what he's saying because he's talking about the decorations. This is in the cabinet meeting. Oh, you can't see. The cabinet meeting. This is in the cabinet meeting. See that guy right there? That is FDR. And some call him a communist and a fascist. Right? Barbara Boyd pointed this out on Promethean. I'm stealing all our points today. Right? Some say he's a communist or a fascist. But he wielded presidential power as the framers intended. He was stretching laws to arm allies with pre-World War II and normalize ties with the Soviet Union in 1933 for trade and anti-fascist unity. He elevated China as a great power in what was called the four policemen vision. Right? This guy right there. That is deliberate. Trump is deliberate. Everything Trump does is deliberate. If there's a 2-hour-long cabinet meeting, I will watch it and I will listen to it because everything he says is absolutely deliberate. Everything. He screwed up the other day with the Liberian prime minister. He was like, oh, where'd you learn such English? And the guy's like, we speak English in Liberia. I can't imagine all the things you have to remember. Sort of funny on my end. Like, I think that's funny. The left was like, oh, check his mental health. But I'm telling you, right? FDR is in this cabinet meeting for a reason. Don't think that the perceived enemies, as he say, don't think King Charles didn't watch this either. Like, they watch this stuff. And he's like, oh, he has a picture of FDR. We can't stand that guy. He wielded so much power back in the day, right? This bold action is designed with broad executive powers under Article 2 to swiftly chop off the threats to empires or crisis without waiting on Congress. That's what he did right there, and that's what Trump is doing. It's all deliberate. It's all deliberate. And Trump is channeling the same weapon. He's using power to build Russia and China alliances. Right? He's smashing the bankers' grip. In his first 100 days, he fired off executive orders blocking Biden-era's climate change. The very first things he did was get rid of the climate change. Does it make more sense now? Pre-King Charles's trip, he was promoting climate change. Now, Trump, his first executive orders demolish climate change. And more are coming. And all of the tariffs, breaking away from NATO and the EU, all of this stuff is deliberate, badass Trumponian politics, man. I just don't understand why people don't see it. Here's Steve Bannon the other day. I want to play a little bit of this clip too.
Means fitness in the lead tank. It's got to be more than just a 4-year. Here's why. You just seen the memo told you, and what you're seeing over here on the Biden stuff. This is my point. Let me step back for a second. We don't control the Justice Department. We don't control the FBI. We don't control the CIA. We don't control all the agencies that Tulsi oversees.
This is more of like the local deep state. This is concerning because in order for Trump to go after some of the global stuff with the British imperialist system, he can do that from economics, but he still has to deal with the local deep state, which Bannon's right. At the top of the CIA, like Brennan and Comey are now under investigation, right? We're still dealing with all of the bullshit here at home, all of the corrupt individuals that only focus on power and greed. We have to get by that first before we can really, like if we had everybody on the same team, this would be the easiest battle of all time. We got the possibly one of the best presidents America's ever had ready to go, and he's being held up by possibly weather warfare. He's being held up by the DOJ, pockets of it, not Pam Bondi, but pockets of the DOJ. He's getting held up by pockets of the CIA who just want to retain their power and their greed, most likely because they're connected to the overseas empire. Very likely are they getting, like they could be. They still spies all the time. This intelligence stuff goes behind the scenes I mean, we'll never know. We'll never know. I'm just telling you.
We don't control the Pentagon. That part of the apparatus that is the deep state and the administrative state around it, they control it. We don't. They just see Trump as a passing figure, like they see everybody as a passing figure. They had 2 coups. They took out Kennedy in a coup. They took out Nixon in a coup.
Right.
Right? And they took out Trump in the first time in a coup. They got 3.
And they tried to set him up to be
this
killed.
Audience and this president, this is what his moral authority is. He said, screw you. They wanted to go to Mar-a-Lago. This audience said, fuck yourself. We're not going to do that. We are going to fight and get it back. And now we're back. It's the first time they've ever been defeated. And now we must run the tables. If we don't run the tables, they're going to destroy us.
100%.
And you know,
100%. If Trump cannot get this done, guys, we're all fucked. If Trump can't get this done, and I know you could put Vance in there, but he's going to make mistakes. Right now, Trump isn't making any mistakes. He's not. Everything he's doing is deliberate. He's like Neo in the Matrix. Neo didn't make any mistakes, right? But he did when he was learning how to do it. Basically, Matrix 1, the whole first movie of the Matrix was Trump from 2016 to 2020. Once he learned to fly, you can't stop him. You can't beat him. You can't. That's where Trump is right now. And when Trump leaves in 3 years, J.D. Vance is going to step in, and he's going to have to learn the hard way on some of the stuff, and he's going to get beat on some of the things, and I just think the deep state is just too powerful. I just really don't think there's anybody else that can take this thing down unless it happens in the next 3 years.
You know what? We will deserve to be destroyed. If we don't do this now, we deserve to be destroyed. This is what the thing of victory is. It's not permanent until we permanently take them apart, and it can be done.
Yeah, I agree. I 100% agree. It can be done. It can be done. This gives you a whole new meaning to this picture, doesn't it? Let's look at that. Those of you listening on Apple and Spotify, I'm showing an American, painted by John Trumbull, circa 1787. It's called The Death of General Mercer at the Battle of Princeton, and it is redcoats versus the British. You got American flags, British flags, all the American Revolution stuff, and it's a painting. It just makes it look different when you zoom out and realize how silly the people in the photos are, right? George Washington knew, but all the soldiers didn't know. They just did what they were told. And we're still fighting them today, man. We're still fighting them today. One of the things I want to point out is this guy. The deep state has its hands on a lot of stuff. This is Kevin O'Connor, the doctor for the Biden White House. Listen to what he said yesterday.
Dr. O'Connor, before we begin, I would like to go over the ground rules for this deposition. The committee will conduct today's deposition in accordance with the House.
This is a congressional oversight deposition. Don't lie.
House of Representatives regulations for the use of deposition authority, which were furnished to your counsel. This regulation is incorporated into the rules of the Committee on Oversight and Government Reform at Rule 15, which was also furnished to your counsel. The questioning will proceed in rounds. The majority will ask questions for an hour, and then the minority will have an opportunity to ask questions for an hour if they choose.
Listen to this.
There will be one staff counsel per side asking the questions during each round.
Coming up,
to the extent members have questions for the witness, they will be propounded during their side's respective rounds. Do you understand?
On the advice of counsel, I must respectfully decline to answer based on the physician-patient privilege and
based on the the patient-doctor privilege. You can't answer. Is that what anybody asked you? I don't think anybody asked you that.
reliance on my right under the Fifth Amendment of the Constitution.
Oh, and he took the Fifth Amendment.
I am not
That's so that he won't incriminate himself. Incriminate himself for what?
a lawyer, and I must follow my lawyer's advice in this matter.
Incriminate himself for what? Here's James Comer, the head of the Oversight Committee.
We asked the question, there was nothing asked in the beginning that would pertain to doctor-patient relationship. This was a question, were you ever told to falsify medical documents for the President of the United States? And he pled the Fifth. And then we asked the question, did you ever doubt his mental capacity to fulfill the duties of the presidency? And again, he pled the fifth. The only thing he answered was his name. There was nothing asked in the.
Do you get it? Zoom out. Nobody cares about the doctor. We already know the answer. He lied about Biden's mental decline. Done. Okay, cool. Everybody accept it? Are we good? Biden lied about his health. Why? Still to be determined, right? We think it was a little bit of Jill. It was a little bit of power, a little bit of greed, a little bit of corruption, a little bit of money laundering. Sure, we'll give you all that. But zoom out, what's the real reason this is important? It's important because it's like when you fight somebody on a battlefield, you don't just wipe them out. You don't just, it's just like it's over, right? You've got to walk up to them. You've got to sneak up on them. The battle starts. There's always a moment. We'll use a basketball game. When you play a basketball game, you might go down by 2. You might go down by 4. But at the very, very end, you know, if you're up by 10 and they're coming back, now they're up by 6. They're up by 4. They're up by 3. They get a foul shot. They get 2 more. They're down by 1. You miss a shot. They're coming down the ball. They have the ball. It's not just an instantaneous, like, exposure, you win. It's not like, oh, play a basketball game, you win. There's this encroachment of you're getting closer, you're getting closer, you're getting closer, and then you win, right? This doctor is effectively the deep state at the surface level. You know, like if you're fishing, it's harder to catch the fish at the bottom of the lake. The deep state screwed up. And when you're under pressure, you screw up. When you're under pressure, you screw up. And the deep state has screwed up multiple times. They screwed up with the auto pin, right? You could even tie this to the British imperialist system because they got their fingers in all of these things as well. They're controlling a lot of us. They have interest in a lot of these things, right? Like Bannon said, the CIA, the DOJ, when you're under pressure, you're going to screw up. You're going to screw up. And then you're going to rat each other out, which is what they're doing anyway. The deep state's fingerprints are all over this doctor. Who told him to cover it up? It's very simple. The deep state's the answer there. But how high up it goes, we don't know. I think it's Obama. I personally think it's Obama that was telling him to cover it up because they don't want to give away their power and control. I also think that the deep state's fingerprints are all over the auto pin, right? Passing laws, signing laws, doing policy. That's also Obama. And I think Obama had ties to the intelligence agencies, which have ties to the head of the intelligence world, which would be in London in MI6. I think our CIA, MI6, and Mossad are all working together effectively to screw us over, right? The CIA is probably working for our interests more than the other two, but the British imperialist system is thriving, but they're getting closed in on. Bannon's right. We can do it. We can do it. Now, we can't do it unless we have midterms. Unless we get midterms going on, right? And so we got midterms coming up. That'll probably do it for me today. We'll probably stop right there, right? You got midterms coming up, and the Democrats are going to try to win the House back. And it looks like it's likely with all of this immigration stuff. And here, I do got to show you this one before we go. One before we go. Tiffany Cross concentration camps. This just makes you... This literally just makes, after we talk about all of that stuff, and then you watch a clip like this, it should make you just throw up because none of this matters.
I don't know. They haven't actually said, to your point, they've said virtually nothing we don't know about this.
This is about an immigration raid that happened in a park to get illegal criminals that broke the law. 8 USC 1325, entry by an illegal alien. If you break the law, we're coming after you.
ICE spokesperson told CNN the agency, but
government agency disappearing people.
Listen to
government agency.
This person's actually on TV. This just shows you where Americans are stupid, right? Because you watch this, a lot of Americans are stupid because you watch this and then people think that this is the thing. This is the current event. This is not the current event. This is as Joe Rogan said, it's the beach ball at the concert that you're like, oh, I just want to hit that one. Oh, and everything's going on beneath you. Listen to what she says here.
Disappearing people. We are normalizing, we're talking about it like it's no big deal that they are kidnapping people and transporting them to concentration camps, both domestic and foreign. I think
that's kind of insulting to.
It's so ridiculous. Nobody's going to concentration camps. They're going to ICE detainment camps because they broke 8 USC 1325. But this is what we're doing. This is what we're doing in local politics, which doesn't mean anything. And neither does the Epstein list. Put it aside. We are trying to get our freedom back. That's it. Focus on that. Once we get that, then we go after the awful child predators and all the things and get the victims some justice that they deserve. I'm your host, Patrick Hobble. Thanks for joining me today. Thanks for playing politics with me today. We will play again tomorrow morning. Have a wonderful, what day is it, Thursday? Have a wonderful Thursday, everybody. Yep, that's not the intro song. We got to say bye correctly. There you go.